Greg, 3:30 p.m., October 24th. Voice memo for possible video covering trip. Entering the White Mountain area of New Hampshire, 93 miles south of the Canadian border, 61 miles east of the state line. As W.C. Field said, rather be here than Philadelphia. 54 degrees on a slightly overcast day. Weatherman said rain. Lunch was $11.31 at the Lamplighter Inn. That's on Highway 2 near Lewis Fork. I'll be sure to expense it when I get back. Damn good food. The idea to chronicle this trip to include in the Twin Peaks video is a good one, though possibly unnecessary. Pretty soon I'll be checking into a motel. Hopefully somebody can recommend a clean place, reasonably priced. That's what I need, a clean place, reasonably priced. Oh, Greg, I almost forgot. Got to find out what kind of trees these are. They're really... I'm like the blue rose. Greg, after a long day, returning to my room at the Great Northeastern here in Glen Falls, 3:15. Sounds like the kind of place where, when you lie down, you don't forget to dream. Hoping to have this wrapped up in a few days. Updates to follow. Greg, 1:18 a.m., long day, turning in. Greg, the air here is as fresh and crisp as a cracker. You don't sleep, you slumber. I'm setting my alarm for 6:15. Good night, Greg. This video is about the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks. We will touch on the 1992 movie Fire Walk with Me and the 2017 sequel series The Return where relevant, but we have to keep it limited in scope, otherwise it would take about 25 years. Meanwhile, Twin Peaks is a 30-episode television series that originally ran 2 seasons from April of 1990 to June of 1991 on the ABC network. Created by Mark Frost and David Lynch, it is considered to be one of the most influential television shows of all time, cut short by viewers choosing to watch NBC's Boston bar-based sitcom Cheers instead. Making my way downtown. In the seemingly quiet northwest town of Twin Peaks, the body of a young girl has been discovered washed up on the shore, wrapped in plastic. Sheriff Harry S. Truman and Dr. Will Hayward identify the body as homecoming queen Laura Palmer. It's a crime that shocks the town. The mystery of who killed Laura Palmer dominates all of the other drama going on, at least on the surface, because there is a lot of other drama going on. FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper comes to town to lead the investigation as Laura Palmer's murder echoes a similar crime not that long ago, not that far away. But this isn't just a simple case of a serial killer toying with the authorities. There are greater forces at work, as Agent Cooper soon finds out. Murder, sexual assault, insurance fraud, narcotics trafficking, embezzlement, ancient evil, supernatural forces, Canadian prostitution. Everyone is hiding something. Haunted by dreams that leave Agent Cooper with more questions than answers, his life will be changed forever by this case and his time in Twin Peaks. In the mid-1980s, ABC was a struggling network, trailing NBC and CBS. Not that they weren't making money, but they had slipped from being the dominant #1 at the end of the 1970s. Their only consistent top 10 show since The Love Boat, Three's Company, and Laverne and Shirley was Dynasty. When NBC's The Cosby Show began in 1984, it was paired with Family Ties and Cheers for a 90-minute block of primetime Thursday television that would dominate the rest of the decade. It rendered ABC virtually invisible to audiences and advertisers. ABC was desperate to find something new to break through, someone to take a chance on. By 1986, David Lynch was in the middle of an impressive career arc as a writer and director. His 1977 film Eraserhead put him on the map. His 1980 film The Elephant Man was a critical and financial success, for which he earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Director. That kind of success might go to a person's head. It might lead one to turn down the opportunity to work on the 1983 film Return of the Jedi, as Lynch did, to pursue greater cinematic exploits with more control and more complex subject matter. Instead of Star Wars, Lynch chose to direct the 1984 science fiction epic Dune and its likely sequels, Next Dune and The Dune After Next, and its likely sequels, Redune and 3Dune, and its likely sequels, Dunes and Dunest. Fate had different plans. Dune was a cataclysmic financial failure, losing around $10 million for producer Dino De Laurentiis, guaranteeing that no Dune sequels would be produced, and that Dune as a franchise would be toxic to Hollywood for the next 40 years. Now, matters were worse, because Lynch had a deal for 3 movies with De Laurentiis. 1, Dune, check. 2, a Dune sequel, not happening. And 3, a film about a mysterious murder in a small town in America where things aren't what they seem to be. Career-wise, Lynch was suddenly deep down in a hole looking up. De Laurentiis threw him a lifeline, a $6 million budget to make his next movie. Lynch would have to take a reduced salary, but he would otherwise be left alone to make whatever he wanted. Lynch's film Blue Velvet played the 1986 Toronto Film Festival, where it was praised by critics, prompting De Laurentiis to release the film to a wider audience. Not a Return of the Jedi audience, but still enough to make the film profitable for De Laurentiis and re-establish Lynch as a visionary cinematic storyteller. In 1987, his reputation restored, Lynch was hired by Warner Brothers to adapt the best-selling 1985 novel Goddess: The Secret Lives of Marilyn Monroe. According to Lynch, he was sort of interested. I loved the idea of this woman in trouble, but I didn't know if I liked it being a real story. In 1987, Mark Frost was a well-known, successful television writer, having worked on shows like The $6 Million Man, Hill Street Blues, and The Equalizer. Warner Brothers paired Frost with Lynch for a collaboration that would pay dividends for decades to come, but not for Warner Brothers or Marilyn Monroe. The Goddess adaptation was dropped by the studio, but Lynch and Frost emerged from the experience as friends and confident collaborators. Their next project was a script for a movie called One Saliva Bubble, about a small town in Kansas where a top-secret government project results in swapped identities for many of the residents. Once again, a script for a project that was not produced, once again leaving Lynch looking for his next opportunity. His agent at the time, Tony Krantz, suggested he make a TV show, but Lynch didn't want to do television, saying, in his own words, "Tony, I don't want to do a TV show." Krantz pressed, suggesting Lynch do for television what he did for movies with Blue Velvet, tell a story about real life in America, through the David Lynch lens. Lynch and Frost weren't terribly excited about it, but they were given the opportunity to come around on it. Because meanwhile, greater forces were at work. In March of 1988, members of the Writers Guild of America went on strike. It meant that Lynch and Frost had nothing but time to kick around ideas and think about what they would like to work on when things got back to normal. They talked about a little town in rural America that had a mystery around it. They started with an image of a dead girl, a murder that pulled the viewer into the community, into the reality of life behind the facade, guiding them through a labyrinth of secrets and mysteries. Frost's time on Hill Street Blues made him ideal for an epic story juggling the intertwined lives of characters on dramatic TV. Lynch could be Lynch subverting expectations, leaning into atmosphere, interesting characters, the unexpected and the unexplained. Their concept was set in and titled South Dakota. North Dakota. What? Their concept was set in and titled North Dakota. Frost and Lynch wanted to isolate the story out in the plains, away from cities and the rest of the world. But what North Dakota didn't have geographically was mystery, the darkness in the trees and the shadows of the mountains, the innate supernatural spookiness of the woods at night. The title was changed to Northwest Passage as the location was moved to the Pacific Northwest. Lynch and Frost considered every detail of their fictional town, a logging community set on a river, where people ate, where they hung out, where the schools were. A macro view of things they could hang the micro-dramas on. ABC was desperate for a hit, in a ratings tailspin lasting several years and an ongoing strike preventing them from putting anything new into rotation. They were uniquely receptive to new ideas from proven creators. In a brief meeting with ABC rep Chad Hoffman, Lynch and Frost made their case. Who Killed Laura Palmer would entice the viewers into an expanding roster of characters and secrets that would keep them enthralled into the future. One crime leading to others, uncovering overlapping layers of deceit, sadness, hope, pain, love, and loss. After 3 months of conceptual work, ABC gave them the go-ahead to write a pilot to potentially air in the fall of 1989. The strike ended in August of 1988, and ABC officially ordered the pilot with a $4 million budget. Both sides made concessions to get the deal done. Frost and Lynch wanted final cut. ABC wanted an alternate ending to the pilot that resolved the story as a backup so it could be released in Europe as a self-contained feature film if they didn't pick up the full series. Lynch and Frost were confident about the show they were making. ABC's new president of entertainment, Bob Iger, liked it, but wasn't so sure about the rest of the executives. Testing revealed it to be a bigger risk than they were comfortable with. At which point, Iger suggested testing audiences that were younger and more diverse, a new data point that registered more favorably and looked like an investment in the future. It was enough to convince ABC to buy 7 more episodes at a cost of over $1 million per episode. While some of the board assumed it would never air, Iger saw it as a spring 1990 mid-season replacement, a new series called Twin Peaks. The cast was a sampling of people that Lynch had worked with in the past, like Everett McGill from Dune, Kyle MacLachlan from Dune and Blue Velvet, and Jack Nance from Eraserhead, Dune, and Blue Velvet. As well as film and television veterans like Richard Beymer, Piper Laurie, Peggy Lipton, and Michael Ontkeen, performers that had been in the industry in some cases going back to the 1950s, but also undiscovered talents like Cheryl Lee. To save a few bucks on production, the role of washed-up dead girl was going to be cast with someone local to the production just outside of Seattle, Washington. As fate would have it, Cheryl Lee not only got the part, but impressed Lynch so much that the role of Laura Palmer was expanded, and Laura's nearly identical cousin, Maddie Ferguson, was added to the story to give Lee another character to play. While Lynch has rejected any ideas about improvisation on his productions, he admits to keeping his mind open to what I will call spontaneous happenstance. Lynch believes that ideas can come from anywhere and that they are the core of creation. That said, an otherwise unremarkable conversation combined with a technical gaffe on set resulted in the crystallization of the character Bob on Twin Peaks. Frank Silva had done some acting, but was working on Twin Peaks as a set decorator. While shooting a scene in Laura Palmer's bedroom, Lynch heard someone telling Silva not to lock himself in the room by blocking the door with furniture. Lynch, inspired, filmed two different versions of a shot panning across Laura Palmer's bedroom. One was the shot as seen in the pilot. The second version had Silva crouched at the foot of her bed. Lynch's instinct was rewarded when Silva's reflection was accidentally captured in a mirror during another shot later that same shooting day. While any other production might have considered that a reason to reshoot, Lynch embraced it. The shot of Silva crouching at the foot of Palmer's bed was not used in the US pilot, but Lynch was motivated by the two spontaneous moments to create a whole new layer of the story that would never have been there if the script had been shot as written. Music for Twin Peaks was composed by Angelo Badalamenti and David Lynch, another previous collaborator on Blue Velvet. Like the writing process with Frost, Lynch would throw ideas, moods, feelings, and just hope that Badalamenti would understand and be able to translate that into music. Some pieces took more time than others, but Love Theme from Twin Peaks landed almost immediately, with Lynch remarking, "You just wrote 75% of the score. It's the mood of the whole piece. It is Twin Peaks." ABC was nervous about the premiere. Internal data continued to suggest that it wasn't going to play well with the Dynasty crowd. It wasn't commercial enough. It was too different from what those viewers were used to watching. Marketing executive Paul Schulman bemoaned that there's no one on the show to root for.
Sorry, Andy.
On top of that, it was scheduled opposite the #3 show on television at the time, NBC's Cheers, a show handsome YouTube writer and host Dan Larson calls a show I love as much as producer Greg loves Twin Peaks. Making my way downtown. Somehow, the premiere of Twin Peaks managed to do what two other ABC primetime Thursday night dramas, Dynasty and The Colbys, had failed to do: take viewers away from Cheers. The pilot was viewed by 33% of the people watching television when it aired.
Who killed Laura Palmer isn't the only mystery in Twin Peaks.
What really went on between Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys?
Who's the lady with the log?
We call it the log lady.
Why, we from the first thing a freshly sung.
Issues.
Quirky doesn't even begin to cover it. Twin Peaks, every Thursday at 8 p.m.
They got a cherry.
This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full and descend. The horse is the whites of the eyes, and dark within. This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full and descend. The horse is the whites of the eyes.
Word of mouth began to spread as people
dark
talked about the show, the
within.
music, the movie-like presentation, the quirky characters. Now viewers faced a choice. Which mystery did they want to invest in? Continue to follow the clues where they lead in the drama behind Laura Palmer's murder in the secluded mill town of Twin Peaks, or find out what antics Cliff Clavin and his mailbag will be up to this week.
Take 'em away downtown.
Turns out it was Cliff Clavin. Hey, Cheers is a very well-written show. 22 minutes in and out. Setup, conflict, and resolution. Audiences agreed as Twin Peaks viewership dropped 30% from week 1 to week 2 and an additional 14% from week 2 to week 3. That downward trend continued, forcing ABC to reassess taking on what Dan Larson calls one of the greatest television shows that has ever aired. By the 8th episode, the first season finale, ABC relented and moved Twin Peaks to 10 p.m. Wednesday night, resulting in the best ratings since episode 3, and clinching a full second season order from ABC for fall of 1990. Critics at the time recognized the differences that ABC was so concerned about as its most important and most influential factors. The technical expertise, the visual artistry that Lynch and the production brought to television was previously reserved for the big screen. Lynch directed the pilot and the 3rd episode. Frost directed the finale. The rest of the episodes were directed and written by creators that Lynch and Frost personally selected. While Lynch continued to share creative control of Twin Peaks, he also had other obligations. Immediately following the shooting of the Twin Peaks pilot, Lynch began production on his next film, Wild at Heart. But he returned to direct the first 2 episodes of season 2 and then episode 15 under pressure from ABC. While Lynch and Frost had always known the identity of Laura Palmer's killer, Lynch didn't want to solve it on the show. ABC didn't like that, and to be honest, Frost wasn't in love with it either. Frost felt like they owed the audience some closure. After the big reveal in the 7th episode of season 2, Lynch relinquished control. Ratings fell off the table and Twin Peaks was put on hiatus. After the resolution of Who Killed Laura Palmer, the series hinged on the developing relationship between Kyle MacLachlan's Agent Cooper and the much younger Audrey Horne, played by Sherilyn Fenn. Life imitated art as these scandalous details just behind the scenes resulted in changes to the public-facing series. MacLachlan in real life was dating Lara Flynn Boyle, who played Donna Hayward. She was not interested in a season-long plot that saw MacLachlan's character in an intimate relationship with Sherilyn Fenn's character. MacLachlan agreed. Writers scrambled to develop an alternative. Plotlines dragged on beyond their intended points to compensate. When that ran its course, a new love interest, Annie Blackburn, played by Heather Graham, was brought in to compromise. After the 16th overall episode, Frost stepped away as well. The revelation of Palmer's killer combined with Lynch and Frost's departure and the drag of a show that continued to rely on surprise and shock value became the opposite. It was expected. As ratings continued to slip, ABC tried to find a different time slot to accommodate Twin Peaks and their hot new series Gulf War coverage, to no avail. War came first, and the audience lost track of Twin Peaks. An organized fan letter campaign made enough noise to prompt ABC to bring Twin Peaks back for 4 consecutive weeks from March to April of 1991. Frost returned for the final 5 episodes of season 2. The last 2 episodes aired back-to-back June 10th, 1991, with the final episode directed by Lynch. But not even the return of Frost and Lynch or the shocking developments left dangling at the end of the final episode were enough to re-engage the audience or ABC's faith in the series or its above-average production cost. Twin Peaks, the series, was canceled. But that wasn't quite the end of Twin Peaks as a franchise. David Lynch was still captivated by the fictional town of Twin Peaks and Laura Palmer as a character. He wasn't ready to leave yet. Aaron Spelling Productions partnered with Lynch to produce a Twin Peaks movie called Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me and its likely sequels, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me 2 and Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me 3, Return of Fire Walk with Me. Mark Frost opted out after disagreements about the direction of the franchise. Production was delayed as Kyle MacLachlan initially passed due to concerns of being typecast, and other series actors attempted to reconcile their careers with a lingering sense of abandonment by Lynch and Frost during the drag of season 2. Lynch ultimately made Fire Walk with Me as a prequel, documenting the FBI investigation into Teresa Banks' murder and the week leading up to the discovery of Laura Palmer's body. His initial cut was around 5 hours long. The final edit was over 2 hours, with the extra material being released years later in 2014 as a feature-length compilation called Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces. Fire Walk with Me was a box office disaster, bringing in under $5 million against its $10 million budget, seemingly, officially bringing the Twin Peaks franchise to an end. For 25 years. In 2016, The Secret History of Twin Peaks was published. Written by Mark Frost, it digs deep into the history of Twin Peaks as a fictional city going back hundreds of years, up through the events of the original television series. That led into the 2017 return of Twin Peaks to television on Showtime for a long-awaited 3rd season, picking up immediately 25 years after the last episode in 1991. The new season, also known as Twin Peaks: The Return, spanned 18 episodes featuring many original cast members, including Kyle MacLachlan as Agent Cooper and Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer. Fan reaction to The Return was split, with some loving it and others feeling it strayed too far from their preconceptions about what a 3rd season would look like. Handsome YouTube writer and host Dan Larson has described it as a series totally unlike Cheers, with twice the runtime and half the laughs. But television and film critics praised it. Prominent publications like Rolling Stone and Esquire called it the best television show of 2017. Lynch, Frost, and the entire production earned high marks for the narrative structure, the unpredictability, the characters, the performances, and the willingness to experiment. Given the adult audience of the show at the time, there were no toys or video games produced. That stuff would all come years later as markets for things like that emerged. Today, there is a range of collectibles and figures from a variety of companies, statues, Funko Pops. Showtime has officially licensed items like hotel keys, signet rings, and Red Room-inspired socks. Twin Peaks, the TV show, was supplemented by Twin Peaks, the books. Pocket published 3 official books with clues and more backstory to the murder of Laura Palmer. The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, written by Jennifer Lynch, David Lynch's daughter. The autobiography of FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper, My Life, My Tapes, written by Scott Frost, Mark Frost's brother. And Welcome to Twin Peaks, an access guide to the town, fleshes out the town and surrounding area. Kyle MacLachlan was featured in Diane, the Twin Peaks tapes of Agent Cooper, and only available in Japan, produced by a Japanese crew, was Twin Peaks' visual soundtrack, a Laserdisc recording of the soundtrack over images of Snoqualmie, Washington, where Twin Peaks was shot.
Invitation to Love.
Hey Greg, did you know that Twin Peaks was big in Japan just as the pop culture phenomenon had faded in the US? My long-lost twin brother, Jericho? Yeah, I did know that. Did you know that a ravenous cult following paid big bucks for tours to America to wrap themselves in plastic and lay where Laura Palmer laid? They bought the books, watched the shows, saw the movie, even if they didn't get it.
Invitation to Love will return.
A 4-episode miniseries of commercials featuring the cast of Twin Peaks in an original mystery searching for a missing girl aired on Japanese television to promote a new Coca-Cola product. Is it canned coffee? Yes! Georgia Canned Coffee is sold by Coca-Cola and has been around since 1975. It was an unconventional marketing campaign that tapped into a surging cultural moment in a very specific demographic. Is it canon? No one The European version of the pilot episode of Twin Peaks was released on home video in Europe in 1990. It is 20 minutes longer than the US version, solves the mystery of Laura Palmer's murder outright, and includes the spontaneously conceived shot of Frank Silva crouched at the foot of Laura Palmer's bed that won him the role. It also includes the debut of the Red Room, as that sequence was originally shot for the self-contained European film. Like the casting of Bob and Laura Palmer, Lynch liked the Red Room scenes so much he decided to continue to use them in the regular series. The European pilot, the film, was released by Warner Home Video in the US, which caused a distribution rights issue, preventing the release of the US version for several years. Everything but the pilot was released on VHS in 1995. In 2019, a 21-disc box set called Twin Peaks From Z to A brought everything together for Blu-ray. The US pilot in 4K, all of the original episodes, Fire Walk With Me, the missing pieces, special features, and lots of other stuff. A comprehensive Blu-ray and DVD box set called Twin Peaks: The Television Collection was released in 2019. The original series is currently available on Paramount+, while Fire Walk With Me is on HBO Max. The return is on Showtime's Anytime service. Twin Peaks as a television series changed the course of David Lynch's career, if ever so briefly. More importantly, it changed the course of television forever. Decades ahead of its time, Twin Peaks broke down the barrier that existed between film and television creation. Before Twin Peaks, television was a step backward for directors. Movie theaters were the end goal. The budgets, the creative freedom, the level of performance, the ability to imbue a film with a director's personal aesthetic. The list of media that directly or indirectly credits their inspiration to Twin Peaks is long. From The X-Files to Riverdale to Love Complex, from Deadly Premonition to The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening to Silent Hill. David Lynch's approach to television was the same as his approach to movies, which seems obvious today, but the differences were more defined in 1990. Technological advancements in the decades following Twin Peaks resulted in larger televisions with greater detail, better sound, more vivid color, and a wider, more cinematic screen. The gap between the movie theater experience and the home theater experiences is far less than it used to be. In some cases, for some people, the home theater experience has become the preferred experience. Streaming services that did not exist in 1990 provide more options for producers to explore a wider range of genres, narratives, and creative voices. In 2022, the competition for top creators has increased as the demand for quality entertainment that stands out in a vast sea of content has become more valuable. Lynch was the first, but it's commonplace now for directors to move freely between the two mediums. What works in film works on television, and the audience expects it now. Twin Peaks made it safe for writers, directors, and producers to explore more artistic methods of storytelling outside movie theaters. Cahiers du Cinéma, a respected French film magazine that has been published since 1951, called 2017's Twin Peaks: The Return the best movie of 2017. It's 18 hours long and was released over a period of 5 months. That's how much the definitions of movie and television have blurred. There is no guarantee now, today, whether a movie will even be released to a theater or if it will do better on television. Because today there is virtually no difference between a film made for a movie theater and a film or film-like series made for television. Technology and storytelling have finally caught up to where David Lynch was 30 years ago. A journey that began in 1990 in a small northwestern town called Twin Peaks. Bye.